Hello everyone, I'm Beastly Eel, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the latest episode of The Bad Batch. So in this episode a lot happens, and it's not like it has been, not necessarily in a bad way. What I mean by this is it's really not two storylines kind of coinciding next to each other. It is one big one altogether. However, I will kind of break it up a little bit into Omega. Actually, it's three now. I know it gets a little weird. um, Omega and the Younglings, along with the Bad Batch and Radcliffe, and then the third one is Echo. You'll understand what I mean as we go through. So apparently, we'll just go with the Bad Batch first. So the Bad Batch is attached to the science ship. Apparently, the Empire is aware that they are on their way. Now, that being said, they don't necessarily know that they're attached to the ship or anything like that. What they know is that they were found on the base that they were on before, and then that their vessel disappeared. And the idea or the thought is that they are figuring out a way to kind of track the vessel to find Omega. So um, the head scientist basically states that he wants everything to be on a lockdown, and they begin to go in lockdown. So when they get into orbit, and they release themselves, so the Bad Batch releases themselves off of the shuttle, space, I guess science ship. I guess the best way to put it. It's hard to explain how it is, but anyway, I digress. They detach, and there is apparently a swarm of fighters going after them. So they have to dodge all that. Well, they realize they're not going to be able to dodge it like they were hoping to originally. So because of that, they are now trying to come up with a new plan. Their new plan is they're going to use I guess you would call them like almost like bungees, or slings, and it propels them down. They hit a bunch of stuff, they drop down, and they supposedly land on the ground safely. Rampart thinks that's the dumbest thing on the planet, but doesn't really have a choice in doing it. So first it is Wrecker and Crosshairs, and then it's Hunter and Rampart. Rampart has a little bit of difficulty. Hunter fixes it, and they land on the planet's surface as the Empire shoots down their shuttle that is on autopilot. They get orders to search the vessel, and the Bad Batch begins to hunt down where the base is. So we have the two pairs going and looking for the base. They eventually meet back up, and they make it to what I would assume you would say is a mountain. It is very hard to kind of explain some of this stuff. I don't know if it's man-made or if it's made by the Empire. It's unclear. It's some sort of rock formation that supposedly over that instead of around it will be faster to get to where they need to go. So Rampart takes a break. Apparently, he's on this massive creature, a lizard-like bear. It's not even. I'm not even that far off, which is kind of weird. So anyway, they begin to run away from it. Rampart's ordering them to fire on it, and they refuse to, mostly due to the fact that their laser or their blaster fire will pretty much give away their location. So Rampart runs as fast as he can. The other three try to like beat the creature. They do not. They're not successful. The stormtroopers hear Rampart screaming. They go to run to see what's going on. That's when they spot the Bad Batch and they begin to open fire. The Bad Batch continues to run away as the lizard bear comes in and wipes out the stormtroopers. Now, the Bad Batch continue to run away, and they are pretty much, I don't want to say they're out of the out of the way of harm, but I guess you would say the best part to say is like they're at least safe right this very second. Rampart, on the other hand, continues to run and is eventually captured by Imperial officers, specifically stormtroopers. I know what you're saying; those aren't Imperial officers. No, but they're in the Imperial ranks. Bear with me. So that is the end of that part of the episode. So now we're going to talk about Omega, because we're going to do Echo last, and I'm doing it for a very specific reason. So in Omega and the group, they realize that their laser fire or cannon blaster fire coming from the base. And so Omega knows that the group is here coming to save her. So she's now going to go into the um, dumbwaiter system, I guess the best way to describe it, like a space dumbwaiter system. She goes inside while she tells the younglings to basically, how do I want to phrase this? Um, Keep watch while she goes into there. So she goes through a decent amount of the place. She sees a location where um, the Empire is trying to control some sort of sea creature. I feel like we should know what this sea creature is. I don't off the top of my head. I do apologize. If you do know, let me know in the comments. Because mostly I don't know what that is. But they're using some sort of ion cannon to kind of try to control creatures. I'm assuming to do their bidding. I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but that's my assumption. So Omega then gets back just in time to not get caught by the scientist, and the younglings try their best to. They don't cause a scene, but they're trying to get to stall the doctor as long as possible. So Omega comes back, and she basically explains to the group that she has a plan, and they're gonna have to work together, and that is how her story ends for this episode. Kind of leaves us on a cliffhanger, which is kind of weird, but then again, there's only one episode left. So let us get to Echo. So Echo, on the other hand, is still on the science ship, where he has now had to basically the Empire is basically going to go through every stormtrooper to make sure they're all safe, right? Because they know they're potentially going to be a stowaway on said ship. So they are ordered to be scanned and make sure they're monitored to make sure that they are who they say they are. Um, Echo steals the armor of one of the stormtroopers and then shoots a robot, one of the droids, I should say, sorry, and takes that droid's hand. And that's how he gets through basically into Tartus pretty easily. Sneaks in, and makes it to the science location, specifically where Omega and Nala Se have been working, and obviously Emery. Well, during his time there, he is then found by Emery, who basically explains like she knows who he is. He's like Echo, and he's like, oh. And so the two of them have a back and forth and everything else. And he's basically stating that you are the monster that's doing all this. And you're a clone. And she's like, I'm following orders. And he's like, I've heard that a million times. So he then explains that he's going to get Omega out. And she says, the only way you're going to be able to get her out is with my help. And she goes, we're going to save all those kids. And he's kind of like, kids? And she goes, yeah, she's not the only one that's been locked up. And that, my friends, is how the second to last episode of the final season of The Bad Batch ends. So we have one more episode left. Obviously, it's going to be a big escape episode, probably a huge brawl out fight between the Empire and the Bad Batch. Curious at what happens. We're going to have to wait and see. I'm also really curious if this is going to be like an extra long episode for the final episode ever. Like, is it going to be a double episode, like an hour long? We'll have to wait and see. Overall, I was decently impressed with this episode. I don't like cliffhangers. For those of you don't know, I'm not a huge fan of it. But I don't think it felt like a cliffhanger. It felt like more of like the fact of like we kind of know everything that's going on, which makes it feel a little bit better. But it's kind of like, ooh, I have a plan, and like we don't know what it is more of what I sometimes have a trouble with. But it is what it is. I'll have to wait until next week for the final episode. But let me know what you guys thought about this episode down in the comments below. Did you like it? Did you not? And why? And as always, if you like the content you see, please make sure to like and subscribe down below. Other than that, this is going to be Beastly Eel signing out. Have a great night.